Welcome to IT Mastermind Talks, your access to insights and experiences from thought leaders in the IT services industry and those that support the industry. Our podcast features not only the seasoned professionals charting their start to exit journey, but also the key contributors who help ensure their success. We delve into the diverse challenges encountered within the IT services realm, encompassing both professional hurdles and personal obstacles. Join us, be part of our growing community and engage in the conversation. Hosted by Ian Markram of LoadingGrowth.
Okay, today I've got Mark Frier from Chrome Consulting. I've known Mark for quite a few years, and it's a great honor and pleasure to have you here, Mark. I would love to start off with is just talk about your background and how you got into a consultancy firm.
Okay, well, thanks, Ian, for inviting me here. I think we've known each other for 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, and our paths had been pretty close back in the UK. But so from a background perspective, I did electronics as a degree, wanted to get some business skills, became an accountant with Coopers & Lybrand, and was sort of in that service industry from that perspective, and really liked the fact that we could go and help customers achieve and solve problems, basically. Ended up at SAP in the UK office, and was really on the software selling side for a long time, but really I saw myself as an educator. So listening to customers' issues and really trying to solve that, and getting the value proposition right. And I could see that was a burgeoning thing, and I came over to Australia, spent 15 years in the ANZ office, and then in 2017, I think my time with SAP was over. 21 years.
Did they give you a nice watch?
They gave me a bottle of Grange, actually.
Oh, brilliant.
On the anniversary of my first day, so it was 1996, I think.
Great.
Which was a very thoughtful present. Look, I enjoyed my time at SAP, but it was time to get out and really help customers take it that much further, and I'd seen a gap in the market where everybody was looking at either structured processes with SAP but forgetting about the documents, or they were looking at documents and forgetting about SAP. So I was trying to straddle both worlds of structured and unstructured as they pertain to business process, and really help the organizations improve their efficiencies.
Great.
So it's a bit of a passion, I guess.
Yeah, you are very passionate about this topic, and I think it's becoming a bigger topic, and we'll get into it a bit more later on in our discussion with AI and everything else that's popping up. But the really interesting thing about the journey that Chrome Consulting's actually been on is it actually started before. Most of the people that I've coached are the founders of businesses, and they've started the business with 2 to 3 other people, and they've moved on that journey. You came in at a point with 2 other founders, and those people are basically, part of the business, obviously the management team and running the directors running the company, and they're doing a really good job. But how did you actually come on? And what was the process? And because I think it's really important, a lot of clients that I coach might not have started that way, but they tend to end up bringing on, other people into the leadership team, into the management team, the senior management team, the ELT, whatever you like to call it, to actually grow, take the business to the next level, the 10x mold. And obviously that's happened early on with Chrome. So how did that happen? And how did was there a bit of a change management process there? Everyone giving up the baby, sort of that sort of type of thing?
Yeah, look, Chrome started 10 years ago, actually, 2014 in May. We just had a 10-year anniversary party down in Melbourne. Yeah. Dan and Athol founded it. Dan joined a few months later, and I joined in 2017 from SAP. So I was bringing a different level of connections. I had my chartered accountant's background and stuff, but did I know how to sell services, like commercial contracting stuff? No. I mean, I had some business nous, but so I was a bit subservient. I slipped into the management team, and I was doing business development and marketing type stuff. And I think what happened was I became the reluctant CEO which is probably the best form of CEO. I'm not about ego. I'm about doing things. I'm about calming the noise in the business. And that's when we brought you on. And you helped us. I think the quote that Athol would say is, "You helped us avoid costs, like basically from mistakes." So you pointed us into a more holistic perspective. We also had eMyth at the time. So we had a coaching organization which was completely independent. And then we, because of your background in the IT services industry and in our ecosystem, which is the SAP ecosystem, we found your input very valuable.
Yeah.
So, I think it was 2019, I became CEO, and it really became a crucial point in the business because we were doing decisions by committee.
Yeah, it's a bit of a trend that I see with consultancy firms. They don't want to make the hard decisions, so what they do is they tend to make it, decision by committees, because they take the pressure off themselves. Yeah, it's great. It's growing up, basically.
Decision by committee and then changing your decision.
Yeah.
Or forgetting that you'd made that hard decision. So tracking, we tracked every decision that we made thereafter. And then we put in more operational processes. But it turned out, and you hit the nail on the head, it's a change management piece. It's everybody's perspective that needs to sort of come together and be more aligned on what the business is trying to achieve.
Yeah. It's amazing because I was on a call late last night with a client and I was saying to them, just take action. It doesn't matter sometimes if it's the wrong action, but inaction is what tends to happen. I think everyone's so fatigued in small businesses and especially in IT services that they're always, putting all that energy into their customers to make sure their customers are successful. And then when they have time to execute internally, they don't actually do that themselves. And, they don't look after themselves as a business. And that tends to mean inaction. And it's sad.
Yeah, I was thinking last night, the other thing that you brought to us was, and I guess this goes back to a lot of the frameworks and education that I had, through Coopers and through SAP, etc. There's a phase of points where you go, you're consciously competent, you're consciously incompetent, you're unconsciously competent, or you're unconsciously incompetent. And our call out to you was to try and get you to tell us where we were being unconsciously incompetent. And that's exactly one of the points, which is, sometimes you're scared to make a decision because you don't know what's out there. And I guess it's a fine line, but that was definitely a call out that we appreciated, from your kind of advice.
Yeah. Oh, thanks for that. So let's move on to, you just had a 10-year anniversary down in Melbourne last week, and I saw the photos and everything else on LinkedIn. It's awesome to do that. A lot of the businesses don't make, past 5 years, let alone 10. And I think it's well done to you, Dan and Athol, and I think it's fantastic news. But, what do you think of the next 10 years? Where do you think you want to be in 10 years' time? And we're all getting older. Don't want to carry on working as hard as you are. Do you see the business growing, doubling, or where do you think you'll be in 10 years?
I think in the next 3 years, I'd like to double.
Okay, great.
We think the market's out there for us to do that. There's a few key things that need to happen, but we think there's definitely potential there. And in the words of Michelangelo, failure is defined as aiming low and achieving it.
Yes, for sure.
As opposed to aiming high and just missing it. So there's definitely aspiration there. Mm. And I think you'll know, and as you were actually talking about the 10-year anniversary, the real good thing that we've done in the last 18 months is to deal with culture in the business. And one of the feedback from the employees, the 3 directors sat in front of the employees and they told us what we should stop doing, what we should continue to do.
Yeah.
And, what did they think of our leadership style and stuff, which was brilliant feedback, basically.
Yeah.
And it's quite a brave
thing to do.
People think it's brave, but if you're open for feedback,
for sure,
then why wouldn't you take it? And one of their things was celebrating success, and so the feedback actually came from the employees, and why not make it special because it was 10 years?
For sure. I mean, in that journey, you would have kicked goals, gone back a few steps, gone forward more steps, and you've progressed. But it's just like any other business journey. It's not perfect. So when you get those wins, you've got to celebrate them. I think it's really important. And the thing with directors is, and I always say this, is the owners of the business, it's very hard for them to pat themselves on the back. They become very hard, of what really is defined as success. And it's quite difficult. And I often say to them, hey, you've got a great business. You just don't realize that. But they just see, as humans do, what needs to be done and where are the negative components, are within that business. So they're always trying to make sure that business is better and better, but not taking the breather to say we're actually doing quite well.
Yeah. I think I'll draw a bit of a funny analogy. I think it's like the royal family.
Yeah.
Like we have a duty as owners to the employees. And that is something that we, it's onerous on us, and it keeps us pushing forward and maybe not having the time to celebrate. But definitely, owning a business is a responsibility, and you don't really want to take the foot off the gas.
For sure, definitely. It's a lot of people dependent on you, and when you hire people, you put that that focus is really important to make sure you get the right person on board. But then you got to make sure they're actually going to get paid. And that's great. Good. That's what I love about you guys. You're really honest, easy company to coach, and I mean, everyone has difficulties, but you are of such a core team of people there that makes it a pleasure. So
I've often wondered, and I've asked you the question a couple of times. How many owners should you have? Should it be 2, 3, 4, 5?
It's difficult because I've got other sort of businesses outside of LoadingGrowth, and there are a few that actually work with quite a few shareholders, and some are quite difficult to work with multiple shareholders. And the stats are out there that 2 to 3 is optimal. So 1 is very difficult. And I see that with single founders, there's no one really to help them out.
Yeah.
And they need to be uplifted every now and then. You have your downers at the point in time. You need to be lifted up emotionally as well and picked up off the floor when you get knocked down. And when you have 2, that does help. But then, the alignment is quite difficult with 2. But 3 sometimes is a lot easier because there's always one person to really help the other 2 make a decision through whatever difficulties you have. So I think that's, stats out there, yeah.
We've got 3 different directors. Each of us has got a different perspective on
different skill sets as well.
And diversity is good, but it also can bring conflict. But dealing with that in a positive way through changes in their culture, I think, has really helped.
Great. I'm going to move on to more about the growth and development, where you think things are going to be for Chrome. And one of the things that I see is, what do you think is a pivotal moment to get to where you want to be in 3 years' time? We've mentioned AI briefly, privacy, security around data, and I think it's the big button that I think you will be pushing over the next 3 years. Could you elaborate a bit on that, and where do you see companies out there needing your services?
Look, I think the pressure on data, and by data I mean structured and unstructured, has been increasing. And I think there's been a tipping point around, and people's realization around AI and also privacy, given the amount of cyber hacks that are happening. I think they were up 300% in the first quarter of this year.
Wow.
So it's almost daily that people are getting hacked. Customers and businesses are getting hacked. So, I think there's many roads that lead to this problem of data. And it doesn't seem like there's a single strategy or approach out there, and customers are struggling. So we might go and pick up a problem here to do with SAP systems and shrinking it for the S4 move. That's good. But of course, if we retire data or purge it, then it's very secure because we've deleted it. So does that data have PII information in? And I think GDPR and PII is coming, and we've seen a couple of organizations like doing work for a bank where your right to be forgotten as an individual record across all of their banking systems is something that we're able to achieve in terms of a precision surgical removal. But, mixed in with that concept is the data lifecycle. So how do we create it, manage it? It's business active for a while, and then it's business complete. Do you want to move business complete information into cloud systems? Well, the software as a service industry don't want to take a lot of history. Some industries actually have to keep 75 years of data. Well, that's federal and state government. So there's these competing aspects, but at the center of it is data and its redundancy, and it's getting old and trivial, and you suddenly then come along and you want to take on an AI project. And AI for me or generative AI is similar to switching on a search engine. And we've had customers run enterprise search up, and they've found lots of PII information in their search results. And they know that that's a threat, and they can't have that. And that, that's come about from old SharePoint team sites, acquisitions, etc. And AI, using that kind of data set, will take the redundant and old information and construct something that it shouldn't. It shouldn't have access to all of that information, and security in the document space is very poor. I liken it to the Wild Wild West.
For sure. I think it's going to be a big topic the next year or two, definitely. So we know there's a big opportunity for your growth in the next 3 years. We all understand that from the IT perspective, and then that's fantastic. So we know that clients have a problem. The challenge with clients, as we know, is they don't know how to, really address the problem, or they don't really know what the problem is. They know they've got something's wrong. How are we going to get them to basically, realize there's a problem? Are you going to educate them? How are you going to go to market over the next 3 years? What are your things? You're going to, you've been doing webinars the last couple of years. You've got a community happening. Are you going to double down on those? What's your strategies around that?
Definitely with the community.
Yeah.
So we've run one user group on one particular product line. There's a new product line that, or the other product line, will be a community that we'll set up. I think education has to happen. We've got to do a leverage model. I think we're going to do that through certain partners. We've reached out to Microsoft. Microsoft have gone, you're 12 months late.
Yeah.
We need you. Why weren't you around 12 months before? But we're here now.
Yeah.
And they still haven't really got the support that they need.
For sure.
And they want to be the data platform for customers.
Yeah.
But they don't know how to articulate and work through the different capabilities and solutions out there that might be needed.
Yeah, definitely.
Because there's not a one-size-fits-all at the moment.
Yes, the large enterprise, so many complexities there on the landscape and the buy-in and the actual people that have the permission to do things and everything else. It's quite a difficult hurdle to get over. And always people. It comes down to people, not systems. It's the people.
That's right.
Yeah.
And look, when we go to customers and we try and archive old data out of the system to shrink it, we're not even deleting it. We're just moving it to somewhere which might be a little bit more safe, on modern technology. The business don't want even that to happen, but they don't use that data anymore. And there are reports and things that we can use and analysis tools out there that can find PII information, can find duplicates and redundant information. But what you do afterwards, you need to secure it if it's business worthy.
Yep.
And that can be tricky.
For sure. Back on the business side, how, IT services, software changing so much. How are you going to stay relevant? How are you going to stay, top of the field and in front of everyone else? Are you investing in people at the moment? I know you hire grads. What's your thoughts on that sort of innovation internally in your organization? How are you going to keep on growing to meet the demand?
So we've just recruited 2 new graduates, one with a cybersecurity background. I think we will have to recruit some of those additional skills because we just can't train. We know what we know, and we've got a training program to do that.
For sure.
And that's useful for us.
Yeah.
But on the edge, I think we're going to have to recruit the skills that we need.
Yep. And the 2 graduates you got, how'd you go through that process quickly? If you got 2 seconds to go through it.
Yeah, look, it's definitely been a refined process because we've recruited before and it's not worked out. In one instance, we were gazumped. Another instance, they started for 3 days and then left.
For sure.
And I think that was all around expectations and maybe the maturity of the graduate. And look, I think attitude in the graduate is probably the most important attribute. I've always sort of said that. And once they join, supporting them,
to be successful. Yeah.
With lots of pillows and gloves and handling them very carefully and giving them time to kind of settle in and get used to, working life. Sometimes these graduates have had little jobs in other places, so they kind of have done that transition from study to work. Yeah, so that's another attribute that we would look for.
Sure, that leads me into the team culture. It's really important. You mentioned that early on. Getting that feedback from your company to the 3 directors. I think it's amazing what you did there.
Between all of the leaders.
Yeah, for sure. So, between all the leaders. So how is that team culture? How have you made that center to where you are as a business, and how are you focusing on that?
Look, I think culture was something that we sort of ignored, or let's put it that way. We left it to chance. So defining what a set of behaviors are that are good, that we're going to stick by and you can hold us accountable to, was a big start. And even just agreeing those behaviors was an important step in doing that. But also the relationships that we have between ourselves needed to be deeper. So it's not just a morning.
Sure.
It's, how are you going? Well, how's the wife?
Put the effort in.
Yeah, and have that range of relationship kind of conversation with different people.
Yeah.
Means that you can hold behaviors more accountable.
Yeah.
And for me, I probably like analogies. For me, we had handbooks and we had policies and procedures, and we thought we were very mature in that space. We've got a PMO. Customers should be really happy that we always look to improve. We have customer success surveys afterwards, and we're very thoughtful in that piece. But the overall culture wasn't being guided, and now we have that guidance. It's helping, so you don't have to write so many rules and things.
Great. I think it's important that you've got that as one of your levers in your business. As you grow, the team culture has got to be really strong. And if you're competing against the large multinationals and SIs, you've got to be different. Otherwise, why would people come and join you? I think that's a very good takeaway. Thanks for that, Mark.
Look, one of the the leaders in the team have worked for some of the SIs recently.
Yeah.
And he's seen the kinds of behaviors that they enact. And that we do refer to that in the recruitment process to say that, which is why we're different.
For sure. It's quite amazing that those SIs are still the same when I was there, 20 years ago, that they've got this culture that they keep on trying to change. They put a lot of effort and money, and you see it always in the newspaper and the financial reviews or whatever it is, that they're putting a lot of time and effort into it. But fundamentally, I think their business model is what defines their culture. And I think that's the problem. You'll never change the culture of those big organizations if the business model is like it is at the moment. So I think that's the challenge. And your business model is around people. And I think it's important.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean, we often say we're a very family-oriented business.
Yeah.
And that means caring for you and your family.
For sure.
And, allowing you the flexibility to do whatever you need at the time that's important for you.
Yeah. Great. All right. Now let's get on to the clients, the ones that pay the bills at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. And it's really important, let's just quickly talk about the services you sort of offer, just so that people sort of understand, where you came from, where's Chrome, what they do, where they're positioned. Can you just give us a bit of an idea of what services you folks really offer?
So I think our tagline is confidence in your content. And that content could be data, structured data or unstructured data. And what we do is we look at an organization's operational processes, if they're running SAP or other systems like Pega, etc. And how do we inbuild or embed the content so it's easier for the end user, which makes it more efficient. They're getting the right information at the right place. And in some cases and in some processes, it contributes to the saving of lives. So you get a business efficiency, of course, but also, in the asset space, when we're dealing with quite a lot of content that relates to instructions for disassembling and assembling maintenance items, etc. If you get that wrong, then that could involve injury or even worst case death. So we're very purposeful in that regard. In terms of not only getting confidence in your content that you're using the right stuff, but also trying to align that with a business benefit, a business value. So it's not just compliance.
For sure. Great. You're an OpenText partner.
Yes. Yeah.
You really bridged the gap between OpenText and SAP very, really well.
And Microsoft.
Sorry. Yeah, true. Microsoft as well. So you've got that covered. The cornerstones of large enterprise, where there's a lot of data and a lot of document management. So that's really, really good. Just the common challenges that I see with a lot of mid-sized consultancy firms where you folks are positioned, what you're famous for. Mm-hmm. And I love that because, it's really difficult when people pick up a EDM or email from a potential consultancy firm and you're a client and you're working, what do these people actually do? For you guys, it's content and manage that content, making sure it's secure and they can get quality content to make decisions. And I love that.
And support AI and clean up for PII, but it's all data content related.
Sure. And that's what you're famous for. And that's what you guys stick out. And it's really, really good. And I think for those people listening out today, niche is really important. If you can go deep rather than broad, it's powerful. And you've done it really, really well there. So one of the challenges I see though, mid-enterprise is consultancy firms, going to large enterprise delivery is the onboarding process. Mm-hmm. And I always get frustrated because the big consultancy firms never really have a challenge around this because the way they sign up the client and the way they've got the commercials aligned and everything else. With small consultancy firms or mid-sized consultancy firms, there's a challenge. Can you sort of give the audience today a bit of an idea of what that challenge is and, where you battle and where you where would the ideal client be and how you try and solve that as you go through that?
There's a few aspects to that.
Yeah.
I'd say it varies from year to year, but maybe 50% of our business would be through partners, through a DXC or Accenture or IBM or KPMG. And we're kind of running to their rhythm and their transparency or lack of that. So it's quite hard for us to justify project managers on projects like that, even though we're experts in our particular solution sets. So with those kinds of projects, you have your own special kind of challenge, and that's really around the timing of when you get engaged. The other aspect that we have is sometimes we're not only following the drumbeat, but we might be on for a few weeks and then off, and then we're waiting for their teams to do other things, and then we're back on. More and more, we're getting a bit more savvy around, certainly for 3 or 4 cases, where we say, look, this person's yours. That's it. They're booked on your time.
For sure.
For other customers, we're agreeing in the month before what the following month's commitment will be. Yeah. So with either the customer or the SI's project manager, and saying that, let's say it's 15 days. That's what we're going to bill.
Yeah.
Now we still have the resourcing obligation to fill the other 5 days, but that's giving us a bit more certainty and a bit more transparency around that. So they're 2 things that we're expanding, I guess, in that sense.
Great.
Along with an onboarding checklist, and really trying to be. We're very customer friendly, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And the customers sometimes
take advantage of you guys.
And so, having a bit more discipline on our side to say, no, we will not commit any resource until, you've issued user IDs, or servers are commissioned or whatever, because we know there's lead times associated with that. But again, it's about transparency.
Yeah.
And being open with the customer as well, and checking in.
For sure.
So we've had a recent, yesterday we have PMs. We've been brainstorming some of these things, and we're hoping to take that up a level.
Good.
And, my drive is to be better every time.
Yeah.
Like that makes me happy. Growth is happiness in my book. So
good points.
Eking and pushing that boundary to be a little bit more more improved, let's say. And that might also include terms that we might change on the statement of work around cessation of things and ramp downs and ramp ups. But putting in a statement of work isn't the answer, really.
For sure.
It's kind of like a backstop, maybe, but it's not polite, and it's not
the way you want to do
this.
It's
not customer friendly. Yeah,
that's right. I really like that about you and Crow. So the thing is, well, it's making sure you're more efficient as an organization. I love that. You're looking at the process, you're dialing that in a bit more, taking it to sort of the next level. And with that efficiency, also less frustration will happen as well.
Yes.
So the cost will be better. You won't lose revenue, unbillable days. And then on top of that, frustration, eases. And I think it's less friction.
And it's better for the consultants as well. Yeah. So, they've got more certainty of knowing what they're going to be doing during the days.
For sure.
They can look forward to it. They can talk to other consultants. We're very collegiate in terms of sharing skills and knowledge. And then, it's, again, I guess it's taking noise and uncertainty out of the business.
A lot of pressure on consultants. And, if you can take that off a little bit, make it easier, they'll enjoy it, do better outcome for clients, and they'll stay with you longer as a staff member. And, okay, so let's just also just thinking about, can you sort of share a bit of a success story where your services have made a bit of an impact for a client, like not a case study or such, but something that you go home one day and you go, we've done something really well there, and it's awesome. It's a bit hard when you're a services firm, and you're putting some technical solution in to sometimes get that that feeling that you're actually changing the world. or you're doing some good. Do you have an example of that at all, or a thought around that?
Yeah. So probably the one I'm most familiar with would be one that I account managed.
Yep.
And often when customers put in this kind of solution, there's a hypercare phase, and there's lots of problems that are surfaced during that hypercare phase. And it frustrated me that, the customer's emotions were in play at the time, and escalations were happening, and it wasn't a good outcome for the customer, really. And I saw that a couple of times, and I really wanted to get to the bottom of what that was. And for the most part, it was change management or expectation setting. And because of this type of solution that goes in, it's in the AP automation side of things. It's requiring more discipline with the business users, which they don't always appreciate. But it's overall, more efficient for everyone in the organization. So managing the expectations with the business users, managing the reasons or explaining the reasons why there could well be hypercare issues, educating even the vocabulary that should be used around problem areas. Because what this solution actually does is it shines a light on business behavior.
Okay.
Right. And everybody thinks the problem's with the tool, but the problem is with the business behavior. And you can't override SAP, so it's not going to be able to fix it unless the business user, for instance, does a goods receipt. And if they're not doing a goods receipt, it's going to highlight the people that are not following along. But of course, you need the management structure to support the end users with training and also, convictions in their own policy change, if it was. And so we ended up writing a white paper or a briefing document or a best practice guide, call it what you will, that covered all of these aspects. And on this particular project, I was briefing the management team, and it came to hypercare, and there were some issues, but it was to do with the infrastructure and the desktop setup of the end users. But actually, errors and faults in the system were non-existent. So we set this circumstance up, portraying that it might be a problematic period, but actually it wasn't in the end.
Okay.
So we've shared, we've offered that document now to the user group.
Brilliant.
And anybody else who's interested in understanding how to avoid change management issues.
Yeah, fantastic. It's really good. Some of the challenges that you've witnessed over the last couple of years, obviously, you've been in this industry for a while. What are the challenges you think going forward are going to happen in the IT services industry? And if so, have you got any? Is it going to be, because at the moment it is quite tight out there in the market. People are sort of working out where is the global economy going. Mm-hmm. Hyperinflation, all these sort of things are happening. We just talked a bit earlier on about what's happening with elections in the US that could impact the rest of the globe. Anything there that you sort of like to share for the IT services industry where you think, is it going to be a sales challenge or was it a delivery challenge? A year or so ago, we couldn't find resources. Do you think it's more about sales at the moment, staffing, delivery? What do you think of the challenges going forward for the next 3 months?
I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm good at reading the market from a sales perspective, because the past half year has been very good. Yeah, I do think that some of the legislation that's coming through on the books in Australia will put a focus on privacy, and that'll release budgets in those particular areas. I think there's a maturity that needs to happen within the market around, all the cybersecurity issues that are being caused. And I guess the belief that AI can help, doing threat monitoring or whatever, is probably an area which will go through the Gartner trough, the hypes and the troughs, much like AI will. And when customers start to really see what is possible and the kinds of outputs they can get, I think there'll be a kind of a bit of a realignment, a bit. And when I say AI, I'm not talking machine learning. I think machine learning's got a lot more utility. It's a lot more predictable.
Yeah, for sure. Now, we know every sort of IT services business goes up and down, ebbs and flows. That's sort of constant as we go through the journey of organizations. What are the challenges that, can you sort of highlight one setback that you had and it could be a regret that you had that setback or how you fixed it? Is there anything there you could share of those journeys in your journey you've had?
There was one organization that we were struggling to work with, and we ended up walking away from that organization and the project money associated with that. I'm not sure if it was at the time it felt like the right thing to do.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think the jury's still out on that.
For sure. Great. Yeah. So it's difficult when you're in the weeds and emotions running high, and these clients are basically being destructive themselves. Sometimes you've got to just take it on the chin, or sometimes walk away. I suppose you decide to walk away at the time, which is a fair call.
And it wasn't a cut.
Yeah.
Let's go. It was a ramp down, so we didn't leave them in the lurch.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I think that was probably the biggest setback that the organisation faced.
For sure. Well, thanks for sharing that. I think nothing works, perfectly, as we know, in the business world. And that's good. Future. Let's talk about the future and the vision. We spoke about the trends really of the IT industry, where that's going. And there's really great upside for Chrome. And I think that's fantastic for you folks. And it's always good when you're running a consultancy firm that certain things do fall in your lap a bit. Nothing really does. Everything's planned.
No, you want the water to flow in your direction.
Yeah, for a change.
So you want to swim with it?
Swim with it, not against it.
Not against it.
And in this case, I think it's definitely going in your direction, which is always fantastic. We spoke a bit about the long-term goals, and I love for that, sharing that. What would you give someone that's really, could be in, your past, working for a big software vendor, that is maybe not say disillusioned, but really wants to change? How would you think is the best way, or what do you think is the best way for them to move into an IT services organization or start one up? Any thoughts on that?
I think you've got to try.
Yeah.
If you've got the conviction and energy, then try and even if you fail, it's not really a failure, and that's the US culture, really.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily the Australian culture yet, but I think there's lots of niches out there with all the microservices, and in the SAP world, it's the BTP platform. You've got tons of services with AWS, Google, etc. So actually assembling those things provides a lot of potential. But I think from a make out and trying, just make sure that some of the housekeeping aspects. So I would say, make sure the industry is growing, that you're addressing.
Right.
Check on geopolitical factors that might affect things. And once those big building blocks are in place, I think, or it's understood, then I think go for it. Great.
Yeah, just jump. Just make the leap.
I know when I first started Chrome in 2014, he needed very little funding.
For sure.
Very little.
Yeah, it's not like you're building a SaaS product.
That's right.
It's really just get up. Just be maybe a contract to start off with, and let's get some revenue in the door, and let's hire 2-3 people and just start the machine.
Like you say, you're building a skateboard.
Yeah, definitely.
Not a car.
Not a car. Everyone wants a car.
That's right. You get to the car.
Got to get the momentum.
But also a product, products are difficult.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, we've not gone that way. Not purposefully, probably because we've been distracted. We could do it. We do have a portfolio of custom work that we do. So this is 17 or 18 custom map apps that could help customers, but we haven't productized that. And I've seen other businesses try to productize things, and
it's difficult.
Be burnt.
Yeah, and the problem with that is you're a services firm and you've got to make sure people are billable. And then that goes up and down all the time. That focus has got to be on there, that pulse of the business. And if you're trying to build a product in parallel to that, it gets orphaned and neglected. So yeah, it's a bit of a challenge, I see.
And then, a software company might come along and
fill that gap.
Yeah,
it's a bit difficult. All right, just like to say thanks, Mark. You've been an awesome client, and you've got a great business, and you should be very, very proud of where you are and where you're going. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Ian.
Thanks for joining us on IT Mastermind Talks. Don't miss out on our next episode. Hit the follow button and stay updated. Want to be our next podcast guest? Contact us and share your expertise with our audience. Visit www.itmastermindtalks.com for more information.